Let's get right into it. Number 7. The quiet gets loud. Imagine you've decided to be productive and disappear from humanity for a week. No calls, no texts, no people, just you, your thoughts, and the faint existential hum of your refrigerator. Day 1 feels oddly spiritual, like a low-budget monk cosplay. By day 3, your brain is hosting its own reality show called Alone, but make it unstable. Here's what nobody tells you. Your brain is fundamentally a social organ. It evolved in gossiping tribes, not in vibes-only isolation pods. When you cut off social contact, your mind doesn't go calm and zen. It gets bored, suspicious, and creative in the worst way. At first, you might notice that your thoughts get louder and more chaotic, like a classroom where the teacher left and everyone started throwing metaphorical paper airplanes. Your inner voice stops being a helpful narrator and starts sounding like a conspiracy podcast. Psychologically, this happens because your brain is desperately searching for stimulation. Humans get dopamine not just from food or pleasure, but from interaction, eye contact, laughter, tone of voice, even awkward small talk about the weather. Remove all of that, and your brain compensates by amplifying internal noise. You might replay embarrassing memories from 2012 with Dolby surround sound clarity, or start catastrophizing like you're training for the anxiety Olympics. Neurologically, isolation reduces activity in areas linked to empathy and emotional regulation while cranking up the threat detection systems. Your brain starts treating silence like a potential danger. That random creak in your house? Suddenly it's a documentary about ghosts personally targeting you. Your mind becomes both bored and hyper-alert, a terrible combo, like a caffeinated squirrel with trust issues. Over time, some people even report talking to themselves more, naming household objects, or having full conversations with their cat, which, to be fair, is already judging you. Your brain isn't resting. It's improvising social interaction because it literally doesn't know what else to do. Basically, when the world goes quiet, your brain turns the volume up, on itself. Number 6. Memory starts acting weird. You'd think fewer people would mean better memory, fewer distractions, fewer conversations, more focus, right? Wrong. Total social isolation treats your memory like an overworked intern who's been told to sort the files blindfolded. Here's the strange part. Memory is partly social. You remember things better when you talk about them, share them, or even just see someone react to them. Without that, your brain starts losing its anchors. Days blur together like a poorly edited montage. You might struggle to recall what you did yesterday, or mix up events from last week with last month, because your brain no longer has reference points like, oh yeah, I told Sarah about that on Tuesday. There's a psychological term for this called source monitoring, which is just a fancy way of saying your brain needs context to file memories correctly. In isolation, that filing system starts looking like a cluttered junk drawer. Did you actually think that thought, or did you just imagine thinking it? Did that thing really happen, or did you dream it? Your brain shrugs and says, pick one. They're all the same now. Long-term isolation can also affect your hippocampus, the brain's memory hub, because social interaction actually helps keep it healthy. Conversations force you to recall details, interpret emotions, and sequence events in real time. Without that mental workout, your brain gets rusty, like a muscle that skipped leg day for 6 months. Meanwhile, your mind compensates by getting weirdly creative. People in isolation often report vivid daydreams, hyper-detailed imaginary scenarios, or full-blown mental soap operas starring themselves. Your brain starts filling in the social gap with invented interactions, which can feel oddly real. You might catch yourself emotionally reacting to conversations that never happened, which is your brain basically fan-fictioning your life. So while you thought solitude would make you sharp and monk-like, it actually makes your memory hazy, your imagination overactive, and your sense of reality slightly squishy. Congratulations, your brain is now a confused librarian trapped in a library with no visitors. Number 5. Your brain gets dramatic about threats. Spend too long without human contact and your brain starts behaving like it's in a survival horror game with the difficulty permanently set to paranoid. Suddenly, everything feels slightly threatening, even things that used to be neutral or comforting. This is because your brain is wired to treat isolation as danger. Back in prehistoric times, being alone usually meant you'd either get eaten by something or starve dramatically. Fast forward to today, and your brain hasn't gotten the memo that you're just in your apartment with Netflix, not being stalked by a saber-toothed tiger. Without social reassurance, your amygdala, the brain's fear center, becomes more reactive. You might jump at small noises, misinterpret facial expressions in videos, or feel an inexplicable sense of dread for no logical reason. Even scrolling social media can start to feel oddly hostile, like every post is personally judging you. Your brain also becomes worse at reading people. Ironically, the longer you avoid humans, the more awkward and anxious you feel about them. When you finally do talk to someone, your mind overanalyzes everything: their tone, their pause, that tiny eyebrow raise that probably meant nothing but now feels like a personal attack. It's like your social skills went into hibernation and woke up grumpy. On a deeper level, prolonged isolation can increase feelings of distrust and alienation. Some people start believing others don't care about them or are secretly plotting something. A mild version of what psychologists call social paranoia. It's not that you've lost your mind. Your brain just hasn't had enough real-world data to calibrate reality properly. Meanwhile, your stress hormones creep up, your sleep gets weird, and your body stays in a low-level fight-or-flight mode, as if you're constantly waiting for a jump scare that never comes. In other words, your brain doesn't find solitude peaceful. It treats it like a badly lit hallway in a horror movie where something might pop out at any second. Basically, your nervous system is walking around with a flashlight, breathing heavily, and narrating everything in a dramatic whisper. Number 4. Time starts acting like a prank. After a few days without social contact, time stops behaving like a polite, linear concept and starts acting like a glitching video game timer. Sometimes it crawls so slowly you could watch paint dry, write a novel about it, and win a literary award. Other times it vanishes, and you suddenly realize you've spent 6 hours staring at a wall while emotionally unpacking a conversation from 2015 that ended with you saying you too to a waiter. Here's the science-flavored chaos behind this. Your sense of time is heavily tied to social rhythms. Conversations, meetings, meals with others, and even pointless chats act like mental checkpoints that divide your day into digestible chunks. Remove them, and your brain loses its pacing. Without those landmarks, hours blur together like an experimental art film where nothing happens but everything feels deeply significant. Your brain also starts messing with your perception of how long things take. Simple tasks, showering, cooking, existing, can feel either painfully endless or suspiciously instantaneous. You might think you've been productive all day, only to realize you've accomplished roughly the same amount as a mildly motivated houseplant. That's your brain trying and failing to keep track of time without external structure. Psychologically, isolation also makes you more present in your own head, which stretches time. When you're interacting with people, your attention is constantly shifting. Alone, your focus collapses inward, making every minute feel heavier, thicker, more chewy. Meanwhile, boredom stretches time like taffy, while distractions make it vanish like your willpower in a bakery. Some people even report dissociative moments, that dreamy, floaty feeling where you're watching yourself from outside your body. That's your brain hitting the autopilot button because it's understimulated and slightly annoyed with reality. You're not meditating, you're buffering. So instead of becoming a calm master of the clock, you turn into a human sundial that forgot how shadows work. Time doesn't pass, it oozes, loops, skips, and occasionally ghost haunts you at 3 a.m. Like, remember me? Number 3, your brain gets emotionally thirsty. You might think isolation would make you emotionally tough, like a stoic warrior who has transcended feelings. In reality, your brain becomes about as chill as a dehydrated cactus at a desert rave. Without social contact, your emotional system gets weirdly intense and unpredictable. Humans don't just need food and water, we need emotional feedback. Smiles, nods, reassurance, laughter, even mild disagreement all help your brain regulate feelings. Take that away, and your emotions start swinging like a malfunctioning pendulum attached to a drama queen. One minute you're fine, the next you're tearing up over a slightly sad commercial about a sandwich. Neurologically, social interaction triggers the release of oxytocin, the bonding hormone that makes you feel safe and connected. Without it, your brain leans harder on stress hormones like cortisol. That means more anxiety, more irritability, and a shocking amount of melodrama over small inconveniences. Spilled coffee? Full existential crisis. Wi-Fi blips? Betrayal. Isolation also makes your brain worse at managing negative emotions. Normally, talking to someone helps you process feelings. Alone, your brain just loops the same thoughts like a broken record stuck on "I'm fine" lying. Rumination ramps up, meaning you overthink everything, replay arguments, and manufacture problems that didn't previously exist. At the same time, positive emotions can feel oddly muted. Things that used to make you happy, music, movies, hobbies, don't hit the same. That's because joy is often amplified by sharing it with others, even indirectly. Laughing alone at a meme feels less satisfying than sending it to a friend who reacts with 3 laughing emojis and questionable taste. Eventually, your brain becomes emotionally desperate in subtle ways. You might find yourself craving small interactions, a cashier's "have a good day," a neighbor's nod, or a stranger's accidental eye contact that lasts half a second too long. Basically, your brain is parched, holding an emotional water bottle, and wondering why you thought no humans was a good idea. Number 1, your brain literally starts to hallucinate connection. Here's the finale, and it's the weirdest one. If you go long enough without social contact, your brain doesn't politely accept defeat. It starts inventing people, not in a full conspiracy board way, usually, but in a disturbingly creative, almost charmingly desperate way. Picture this, you've been alone for days. The only voices you've heard are your own, your notifications, and maybe a YouTube ad that kept calling you bestie in a way that felt legally questionable. Suddenly, you catch yourself chatting out loud, not just narrating, but actually having back-and-forth conversations with nobody. You pause, you respond, you even change your tone like someone else is there. Congratulations, your brain has built a pretend social partner because it is starving. This isn't just boredom, it's neurobiology. Your brain has a system called the social prediction network, which is constantly anticipating how other people think, feel, and react. When real people vanish, that system doesn't shut down. Instead, it goes rogue, filling the gaps with imagined interactions, internal dialogues, and sometimes full-blown visual or auditory hallucinations in extreme isolation. Sailors, prisoners, and people in prolonged solitude have reported seeing, hearing, or feeling presences that weren't there, not because they're crazy, but because their brain is so wired for connection that it'd rather make up a friend than accept silence.